And so we're going to be meeting with funeral directors to talk about pre-planning this month. And I think it's important to think about what we're going to ask and some of the most important questions before we go in there. So I usually tell care seekers to prioritize questions about protections and financial protections, um, how the contract is or isn't flexible, and also how to personalize the service to ensure that you get exactly what you're paying for. Um, and so specifically, depending on where you live, make sure you ask if your money is being held in a state regulated trust or if it's more like an insurance policy. That's pretty important. Um, because if you're going to be paying it off over the course of a couple of weeks, months, or years, um, and you die before that happens, before it's paid off, you want to know how that's handled. And if you do pay it off, it should be held in some kind of a trust, right? Where it's not actually spent until you are at need. Um, so that if you change your mind, what happens? So we'll get to that in a minute, but make sure you find out, where the money is being held. And then if you do change your mind, or say you just want to cancel it altogether, are there penalties or fees? A lot of people, when I lived in Florida and I was a licensed prenatal counselor there, I would talk to so many people who were living in Florida, but they wanted to be buried in a family plot up in Chicago or New Jersey or New York or even Georgia. And so make sure you talk about the costs that are associated with that, the costs of flying your body somewhere, and then what the costs are going to be for the funeral home or funeral director you're going to use at that location. So there's going to be costs associated with taking your body to the funeral home where you are and getting everything you need there, and then being flown to the place. And then the funeral director picks you up at the airport there, and then they have costs. So it's doable, but just make sure kind of you get those questions answered and everything locked in now. And if you change your mind altogether, like say you're being buried in your home state right now, but 10 years from now, your loved ones all move someplace else and you've changed your mind. Now you want to be buried where they're located, or you want, say, natural reduction or human composting isn't available where you live now, but in 10 years it is. So you want to be able to change your mind. You want something flexible, maybe. Make sure the funeral director knows that and can advise you how you can make sure that that money is protected and that you are aware of any penalties or fees if you change your mind or want to cancel the contract outright. Um, Speaking of money, also ask which specific costs are guaranteed, like locked in at today's rates. Um, Things like maybe the cemetery plot, maybe the cement vault, if that's required by the cemetery. I'm trying to think of other things that might be locked in, like the casket, for example. Um, Things that are cash advance items, they're not guaranteed. Those tend to be subject to inflation. Things like the cost of the death certificates. It's not a lot, but that will be due at need at the time of death. So obituaries, different websites and news organizations cost different, charge different amounts for the obituaries, and that will go up as the years go by. So that's a cash advance item. But find out what other ones are on the contract. Things like, I know yurtside candles might be one. There might be others. Also, um, ask if the plan's value grows, if what happens if the plan's value grows beyond the final cost of the funeral. Like, will the excess be returned to your beneficiaries? That's a good question to ask. What I like about pre-planning is that it allows you to specify exactly how you want to be remembered. So talk to them, ask questions about, how to personalize the service. Um, like maybe they offer specific alternatives like green burials, aquamation or liquid cremation, or maybe just direct cremation. Um, Ask if you can include specific music, like ask about playlists where the music will be playing in the facility. Can you include specific readings? Maybe a memory table, unique themes in the ceremony. I'll tell you, one time I was working at a funeral for somebody, and I noticed that on the screen, there were all these pictures that were coming in, that were streamed in from outside. And they were all great pictures, but I wondered, and I asked the funeral director, who kind of sits and makes sure that these pictures are appropriate? When loved ones are uploading pictures to this streaming service, who makes sure that they're acceptable? I mean, am I the only one with friends that would go crazy and upload some pictures from my college years that are clearly not appropriate? But she looked at me like I was nuts. So maybe I am the only one. But I would ask, like, can I or somebody I designate approve the pictures ahead of time? That might be important depending on your background and who you're friends with or who your cousins are. Yeah. So I also would ask, if you wanted your family or if you wanted to provide your own casket or urn or vault purchased from an outside vendor, is that acceptable? Um, and can the service be held at a different location besides the funeral home? Can it be held at home? Can it be held at a park? That might be important to you. Make sure that you pick the primary point of contact in case you are not available, in case you've passed on. Um, and then make sure that you understand that they're going to handle the filing of death certificates, social security notifications, obituary submissions, the bureaucracy of death. Is that something that they will handle, or is that something your primary point of contact will have to handle? And then again, like I mentioned, if you have something that like you have a destination funeral in mind or you have a destination burial in mind, make sure that you ask about travel protection to cover the cost of transportation. Um, and also sometimes as you get closer and closer to at need, you might want to think about travel protection if you are a traveler. If you're constantly away, you can purchase insurance to cover the cost of transportation if you pass away while traveling far from home. These are all good questions to ask the funeral director. This month, as we tackle our, month by month checklist to die well, I hope that you get some good questions answered and find out from funeral directors in your area what they can offer, get some prices, see what their vibe is. And if you have any questions at all, the comments are open. Don't hesitate to ask. Good luck to everybody.